We're going to reconvene. Next on the agenda, we're going to have a public hearing, MC 16-02, Brightwood Place, Atlanta, LLC of Atlanta, Georgia, requesting modification of zoning conditions for the property located at Turner Church Road near the intersection of Airline Road, known as Brightwood on the Lake, formerly known as Brightwood Place. In land lot 86 and 107 of the 7th District, the property consists of 42.79 plus or minus acres, and request modification is regarding development regulations District 3. Mr. Dante, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Brightwood on the Lake subdivision, Phase 1 and Phase 2, which is the subject property, is a 65-lot subdivision zoned R3. Phase 1 of the subdivision was rezoned in 2003 from RA and R1 to R2 on January 8, 2004, with 9 conditions. Phase 2 of the subdivision was rezoned from RA to R2 on November 11, 2004, with 9 conditions. With the adoption of the 2009 ULDC, zoning district designations, which stated that properties having a minimum lot size of 18,000 square feet that were R2 and on public sewer were converted to R3 zoning district designations. The property owner is requesting to modify condition number 4 regarding the allowed exterior finish material for all homes within the subdivision. The original condition number 4 from case number RZ03-64 and RZ04-56 reads, all homes will be all sides brick, stone, or stucco, or any combination thereof. Planning staff has no objection to the applicant's requested modification, but offers the following suggestion as to wording. All homes shall be craftsman style, consisting of all sides brick, stone, stucco, or any combination of 2 or more of the following materials on all sides, and that is brick, stone, stucco, or cement fiberboard. Vinyl products are only permitted in the soffits, eaves, and fascia. With the approval of the requested modification, the developer has notified staff as of this morning that they are also agreeable to the following additional conditions, and I'll place them on the overhead for your viewing on your screen. The first additional condition will be the plat will be revised to show a 25-foot undisturbed buffer all along the rear of lots 101 through 121. The second is the plat will be revised to show a 25-foot undisturbed buffer along the rear of lot 211, the portion of lot 212 that borders the McGrew property, and the rear of lot 147. Number 3, the plat will be revised to show that along the western line of lot 148, adjacent to the McGrew property, the builder will either provide a 15-foot wide landscape buffer meeting Henry County buffer requirements or construct a 6-foot high wooden fence along that line. And number 4, each house will be landscaped to include at least 2 2-inch caliper trees, 1 street tree, and 1 accent tree in the front yard. For corner lots, 2 street trees will be installed in addition to 1 accent tree in the front yard. And with that said, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Anybody have any questions to Dante?
I don't have any questions. We got a comment, Sam.
Okay.
Dante, myself, and Steve and James, we met on this project. I've got pictures here of the houses they're going to put. If you'd like to put that up, Dante, so they can see. But this is going to be a great addition. And instead of just all these brick boxes, each house is going to have its own character, so to speak. And it's a great project. And you know, I'll be happy to make the motion.
Well, we got to have a public hearing.
Okay.
Anybody else got any comment? If not, will applicant please come forward? State your case, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Steve Moore with Moore Bass Consulting, 1350 Keys Ferry Court, McDonough, Georgia. Dante did a great job of explaining exactly what we are requesting to do. This subdivision, like many others, zoned back in the 2004-2005 era, received that condition, which seemed to kind of run rampant during the zoning processes of all sides brick, stone, stucco, or any combination thereof. And that condition is evident when you drive through some of the subdivisions that are being built now, where the homes are being built now, where it looks like very large brick boxes stacked on top of each other. and that's just one of the most efficient ways of accomplishing that zoning condition. Our request is simply just to allow the developer or the builders and their architects more freedom and flexibility in a creative, more modern, popular architectural design, which is this craftsman-style home. The pictures, as you can see, communicate very well what we intend to do. It's consistent with very current, recent zoning approvals and conditions that were placed on properties, and even modifications to previous conditions that were approved, including Longleaf subdivision, which is across the street from us, and Sage Creek off of LaGuin Mill Road. So with that, again, we've worked with Dante, and those conditions that he read were agreeable to those, and I'm happy to answer any other questions that you've got.
Everybody got any questions for the applicant? This requires a public hearing. I will set the clock for 10 minutes. Correction. Yeah, 10 minutes. And I will open the floor up. Anybody that's in favor of this, anybody that's in favor of this proposal is come forward, state your name for the record. Seeing none, hearing none, I now open the floor for 10 minutes for people that oppose this. It's in opposition. If you would come forward at the podium and state your name for the record. Seeing none, hearing none, I declare that the public hearing portion has been met, and I yield the floor to District 3.
Thanks, Chairman. I would like to make a motion to approve the modification to the zoning condition request for case number MC-16-02 as suggested by staff, with the following additional 4 conditions. Number 1, the plat will be revised to show a 25-foot undisturbed buffer along the rear lots of 101 through 121. Number 2, the plat will be revised to show a 25-foot undisturbed buffer along the rear of the lot 212, the portion of lot 212, 211 that borders the McGrew property in the rear of lot 147. Condition 3, the plat will be revised to show that along with the western line of lot 148 adjacent to the McGrew property, the builder would either provide a 15-foot wide landscape buffer meeting Henry County buffer requirements, or construct a 6-foot high wooden fence along that line. Number 4, each house will be landscaped and to include at least 2 2-inch caliper trees, 1 street tree, and 1 asset tree in the front yard. For corner lots, 2 street trees will be installed in addition to the 1 asset tree in the front yard.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I have a question. Can I?
Let's have a second, then we'll discuss it.
Second.
Have a second, District 1, discussion.
Mr. Moore, we recently had an incident where we had put a undisturbed buffer on top of a drainage easement. You know, we have the drainage easements on each side of the property line. This isn't going to affect this property. I don't know how it drains.
No, it's currently heavily wooded. It's not a significant part of the drainage feature. There's no ditch that runs the length of the property. There may be one isolated section where there's some drainage swales that were cut in, but again, they were even off the property line, and there is a very thick stand of trees that runs that entire length of that property.
Okay. All right. We need to, in the future, let's all make sure we, look forward ahead, because we don't want to have that situation again where we have an undisturbed buffer and we can't get to our drainage easement to do something about the water flow. So let's just make sure, just check it.
Applicant, would you accept these conditions as read?
Yes, sir.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. So moved.
Thank y'all.
Public hearing, MC 15-07 Century Communities LLC of Atlanta, Georgia, request modification of zoning conditions for property located within the Colonel Hampton subdivision on the south side of Highway 81 in land lot 186 of the 6th District. The property consists of 36.32 plus or minus acres, and the request is to modify conditions for path in the amenity area, District 2. Dante.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This case was tabled by the Board of Commissioners on March 15th, 2016, per the applicant's request, and was re-advertised for tonight's meeting. The subject property was rezoned from RA to PD on March 21st, 2006 by the Henry County Board of Commissioners with 13 conditions. The applicant is requesting to amend zoning condition number 8 by removing the ADA requirements from the required pathway in the amenity package of the Colonnaded Hampton subdivision. Condition number 8 currently reads, the amenity package, which includes a 6-foot wide pathway and periodic benches, shall be installed prior to the 10th home being completed. The pathway shall be constructed to ADA standards. The applicant is requesting to install pathways with mulch and benches. The applicant is also requesting the elimination of one section of the path which is located adjacent to lots 14 through 18 and 22 through 24 due to this pathway section having to be retrofitted to existing lots by increasing the elevation approximately 4 feet to 6 feet. While the practice has been for staff to make no recommendation on modifications to zoning conditions placed by the Board of Commissioners, staff would like for the Board of Commissioners to be aware of the following. The mulch paths proposed by the applicant will require a high level of maintenance due to the natural degradation of the material and would be accessible to a smaller user base than would any hard surface paths. A paved path would ensure greater longevity of the path and would provide access to a greater number of end users. The requested elimination of the path to be located adjacent to lots 14 through 18 and 22 through 24 would remove the convenience of access to the complete 15.29 acres of open space due to the existence of a retention pond on lots 6, 7, 11, and 12. Planning staff makes the following suggestion as to wording should the Board of Commissioners wish to approve the applicant's request. The amenity package, which includes a 6-foot wide pathway and periodic benches, shall be paved. With that said, the applicant has stated and communicated with staff and the commissioners a different intent, and I'm sure that he will inform you of that tonight regarding the pathway versus a proposed playground area. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have at this
Anybody have
time.
any questions or comments?
I'd like to defer my comments.
Okay. Will the applicant please come forward?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Ewell Monte Brown. I'm representing Century Communities of Atlanta. I just want to, first of all, thank you for hearing our case this evening and the cooperation that we've received from staff in regards to this zoning modification. First, I'd like to recap as to why we're here this evening. We initially proposed that the ADA requirements be removed from the walkways that were proposed on the final plat of the Colonnades at Hampton, as well as proposed originally, as Dante stated, we proposed that we do mulch trails and eliminate trails adjacent to lots 14 through 18 and lots 22 through 24. After canvassing the neighborhood and speaking to some of the residents in the neighborhood, we found out that the walking trails weren't really desirable. They weren't desirable at all by the neighbors and the neighborhood association. So by last meeting, we were here, and we had some members of the neighborhood who expressed concern about the walking trails. One, they were told originally that the walking trails were not going to be there; that they were going to be an undisturbed area. Secondly, they were concerned about the safety and the danger of the walking trails, the fact that the walking trails were so close to their houses, and in certain cases, there was an easement on property lines that allowed for access to the walking trails. So we asked the neighbors, well, what would you like to see as opposed to the walking trails? And resoundingly, they said a playground. This action was tabled due to the lack of the majority of votes that we had from the neighborhood association. So what we did is we are proposing this evening, we could do either two things. We would like to, we've promised in writing, we would like to propose a playground in lieu of lot 51 that will have privacy fencing and benches and an area for the kids to play, as in lieu of doing the walking trails that are currently on the final plat. I've given and sent you all estimates of our pricing on the walking trails as opposed to what we've agreed in writing to do with the playground. We've agreed to invest $20,000 into a playground, and the estimate for the walking trails was $17,000. So in efforts to do what the neighborhood wants, we're asking that you respectfully approve the alternative to the walking trails with all the evidence that we've submitted, as well as we have 2 COs that are presently on hold right now because of this unresolved issue of the amenities package. The neighbors do prefer the playground as opposed to the walking trail. So I'm respectfully asking tonight that we resolve this either way. Century stands ready and committed to do either or, but it is the wishes of the neighbors in the neighborhood that they have a playground as opposed to intrusive walking trails. I'll be
Anybody
glad
have
to
any
answer
questions for the applicant? Okay, if not, this constitutes a public hearing. I'll open the floor up for 10 minutes if someone that's like to come up and speak for this request.
Original conditions was the walking trail was to be made of mulch or some type of pavement.
We agree right now that the walking trails, we agree to the pavement. We've discussed this with staff and staff said that they would not recommend a mulch trail. So we came to an agreement that we have an approved surface of recycled asphalt. But in our discovery, the neighbors decided, they told us, and they told us through the signatures on the petition that we do not want these walking trails. We would like to have a playground.
And so we're looking at, so if you go with the walking trails through, I think this is an 85 home subdivision.
Yes.
A paved trail, to pave that trail would be about 17,000. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, sir. I have the estimate, and I've sent you all copies of that estimate from Key Curbing out of.
You only have one estimate?
That's all we need. And we propose to spend $20,000 on a playground as an alternative to those walking trails.
Anybody else have any questions? Yeah, say again?
Has the public had a chance to
No,
speak?
I'm gonna go back again. Anybody like to speak in favor of this request? I'll I yield the floor to District 4.
Let's make sure, last time there was a lot of confusion, it was in favor of what? So let's make sure we've got what we're in favor of, because if you remember last time we did this, we didn't know who was in favor of what. So, in favor of the trails or in favor of the?
I think the way it is, you're either going to go with the 6-foot wide path paved, or you're going with a playground.
So should we do that?
That's why I understand it. Is that a good scenario?
That would be accurate. Those who would be in favor of the case would be in favor of the trail, and those who would be in opposition would be against the trail, but in favor of the alternative.
Let me ask you this since you're up here. It said the amenity package, which includes 6-foot pathway and benches, shall be installed prior to the 10th home being completed.
That was the original condition.
How many homes has been completed?
Currently, I
9?
don't have that, but Mr. Monte may.
80.
8?
80.
80?
Yes, sir. And we
80?
are the second builder.
How did we get to, if somebody had complied with this after the 10th home, this wouldn't even be an issue for us.
And it predates us as well, exactly.
80 homes.
80 homes are
I
built,
thought you said 8.
80. And we're waiting for 2 certificate of occupancies for 2 homes, 2 remaining homes.
Do we have, except for this area, do we have paved paths all the way around it except this area?
We don't have any paved paths,
We have none, no paved paths?
none right now, nothing.
Is it supposed to be?
Based on the original condition, yes.
A paved path all the way around the neighborhood?
No, there's sections. Let me show, well, I don't know if you can see on the overhead.
Well, I yielded to 4, and now I thought maybe if it was connected, and we just missing link.
It's not connected, there's
Okay,
sections.
I
There's
got you.
sections.
Okay, so that answers me. Are you satisfied? Okay,
Just make sure we know who's speaking.
okay. Is everybody convinced as to where we're going with this, or could go? Okay, we got a public hearing. Somebody like to come to the podium that's in favor of this? Okay, if not, I'm gonna open the floor up for 10 minutes. If anybody that's in opposition of this. Having said that, I'm gonna yield the floor to District 2.
Okay. The applicant is, oh. Come on down.
You in opposition to this, is that correct?
Yes, somewhat.
Okay, state your name for the record, please.
Labora Swain. I live at 205 Christopher Michael Lane, Hampton, Georgia. I was here the last time. How about that? All right. I was here at the last meeting, and the playground area, okay, to me, that's just kind of a cover-up, because when I moved into this neighborhood, as I said, I was told that there would be not just a playground area, but there would also be a common area along with the walk trail. Now, I understand that they last said that they bought this lot at a distressed price. They certainly didn't sell me my house at a distressed price, so they did make their money. On the 2 lots that they were supposed to use for a playground area and a common area, they built 2 small homes, upgraded them to keep the price up. And I know if I had bought something that large, and by oversight or overlook, I didn't look to see what was originally planned to be in this neighborhood, I think that I would be in a bits of hot water. So as far as I'm concerned, just giving a playground area, they need to do something else also. That's $20,000. They've put 2 houses that they originally, those lots, from my understanding, were supposed to be used for something totally else. And I've also stated that, to me, the playground area, that's fine, because it looks like that's all that we'll be able to get. But the entrance area, I brought that up at the last meeting. They could do something better with the entrance area, because it's just a slab wall that says Colonnade of Hampton, to try to at least make up for everything that has been going wrong with the subdivision. You know, when I bought over there, I was under the impression, like I said, that there would be a common area, there would be a playground area, and there would be a walk area. But now they're saying, well, we caught him, that was the old builder. Well, don't tell the new people coming in to purchase it that. And the CO for those 2 homes, I hope they don't get them, because to me, when I walked in them, they look like matchboxes, and it's a disgrace to the community. I just wanted to state my opinion, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anybody else like to be heard in opposition? If not, I'm going to declare the public hearing requirement has been met, and I yield the floor now to District 2.
This is, you know, not to go through and rehash everything, but this is an issue that was actually tabled from a prior meeting, and we've had a lot of communication with the applicant, Century Communities, this is not their only community in the subdivision in the Henry County area. They actually have a number of homes and communities. And I do commend, you know, one of the things is it's hard when we have these neighborhoods. It started, they didn't completely get completed, and now we're at the situation of trying to figure out what's the best course forward. And I do like the collaboration with the residents. I mean, that's a powerful thing, because these builders that come in, you're not only just builders that come in and take over the property that was left over, you come in to be stakeholders in the community as well as to be a stakeholder in the community, the county as a whole. And I think as a result of that, you know, what I've seen by looking at the numbers, looking at the signatures, this really is one of those things where it's a split decision. I mean, we do have over 50% of the people would prefer the playground equipment, but there's also, as we just heard, we do have a number of residents that wanted the trails. So what I'd like to do is, because we do have a stakeholder involved here that not only is involved with Century Communities, not only involved with this community, but also with other communities, I'd like them to continue to be able to show the goodwill, since I've seen two pricings between 17 and 20,000, is I plan on making a motion to modify the zoning condition to actually remove the requirement for the trail altogether, and then leave it to the stakeholder to show us that they're going to do what's in the best interest of that subdivision, that county, and work with the HOA of that neighborhood, because it seemed like you had the support of a lot of the HOA leadership position. And let's let you guys do what's in the best interest of that neighborhood, since you're a stakeholder, and let's move forward with protecting that community.
Yes, respectfully, I agree. And what we have agreed to in writing is, in exchange for deleting Condition 8, which is the pathways, that we will install a playground at Lot 51, install a 6-foot-high treated wood privacy fence along the side of the property lines of Lot 50 and 51, 51 and 52. The fences will be adjacent to the back of the houses of 50 and 52 and extend to the rear of their property. We will reinstall the one-way sign near the mail kiosk, knocked down by a subcontractor. There's some other issues in the neighborhood that we've agreed to in writing. For example, stabilize a street lamp on Lot 14, which had an easement for the pathway. And in addition to that, there are some low spots where these trails, where they were started by someone else. There are low spots and where there's flooding in the backyard of some of the neighbors, and we agreed to do that. So we're going to invest that $20,000 and try to do right by the neighbors, because, like you stated, my client is a builder in this community. I live in this community, and we want to do right by the citizens of this community.
Yeah, and Monte, it sounds like we've gotten pretty close. I mean, and I heard the request that came up with concern. It sounded like just a little more landscaping around the entrance. I think you guys have been stakeholders, so I commend you for stepping in, and we'll be watching to see how this all plays out. But thank you for Century Homes stepping forward to show that they do want to be not only a builder but a stakeholder in ensuring this is a good long-term community.
Thank you. And I would also ask that in that motion, when you make that motion, that tied to that motion, that the hold on our certificate of occupancies, the remaining two.
That will happen naturally just by removal of the condition. Is that correct, County Attorney and Dante? Wouldn't that I mean, there's not going to be any hold up, because we're going to modify it to remove that condition.
The case will be complete. The condition will be modified per the Board of Commissioners. And at that time, Planning and Zoning Department won't have any further.
And I appreciate you guys being a good
Thank you.
stakeholder. So that's my motion is on the floor.
Is there a motion? Somebody second a motion? Second, District 3. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. So moved. Public hearing, RZ 16-02. Brave Friends LLC of McDonough, Georgia, request rezoning from RA Residential Agriculture R3 Single Family Residential for the property located at 28 Crumbly Road and land lot 7 of the 7th District. The property consists of 35.31 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a single family residential development. Dante, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item was postponed by the Board of Commissioners per the request of the respective district commissioner on April 19, 2016, and was subsequently re-advertised for tonight's meeting. The applicant is requesting to rezone 35.31 plus or minus acres from RA to R3 for the purpose of a single-family residential subdivision. The proposed development consists of 53 lots with a minimum lot size of 18,000 square feet on public sewer and with a net density of 1.70 dwelling units per acre. The minimum heated floor area being proposed for each home is from 3,000 to 3,500 square feet. The future land use map designation for the subject property is low-density residential, which calls for 1 to 2 dwelling units per acre. However, the property is located within a school node activity center, which calls for a targeted average gross density of 3.0 dwelling units per acre, and for residential growth to be directed to these areas that are already served by nearby schools as opposed to rural areas far removed from existing educational facilities. The school node activity center in which the requested rezoning is proposed has yet to meet the targeted average net density of housing, having an average gross density of only 0.36 dwelling units per acre. Staff recommended approval to the Zoning Advisory Board with 10 conditions on March 10th, 2016, and the Zoning Advisory Board recommends to the Board of Commissioners denial of the applicant's request. For the Board of Commissioners viewing, I do have the recommended conditions that staff took to the ZAB if you would like me to place them on the overhead. With that said, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Anybody have any questions for Dante? Having none, I'll ask the applicant or the representative applicant to come forward, please. State your name for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Commissioners. My name is Andy Welch. I'm representing the applicant Brave Friends in this request. Staff has gone through the proposal, so I'll just kind of be focused and brief on what I'm going to say. R3 subdivision. This property is located inside the school node, which was designated by our comprehensive plan, which it parallels and actually dovetails with our zoning ordinance. These are the laws and guidance documents of this county. Those were adopted by boards of commissioners prior to this enactment of this particular board. But nevertheless, it is the law of this county, and it is the guidance document of this county. Under the ULDC and then under the comprehensive land use plan, these nodes were established to concentrate density in close proximity to our schools to reduce the transportation costs for kids getting to school, for parents and delays of getting to school and getting their kids home. Also, this property has sewer on it and water. Both of those public utilities provide for and allow for density to be applied to this property within this node at a reasonable density unit per acre. The request itself, the node itself allows for up to 3 dwelling units per acre and is actually deficient in the number of residential units for that node to the point of about 1,400 homes. This would add 53 new homes to that at a density level that is lower than the 3 that's proposed for the node. In addition, the 1.7 density units per acre that's allowed for is consistent with the underlying zoning or the underlying land use plan if you took the node out of the picture altogether. With the node, it's consistent. Without the node, it's consistent with the land use plan. When we enact laws, and when you enact guidance documents that are supposed to direct the future growth of this county, it is beholden upon future boards to follow those documents and follow its laws. The commissioner from the district in which this property is located, Commissioner Prince, you did a great thing tonight. You adopted, through your hard work and through this board's adoption of a plan that will reset the pay schedule and set a trajectory for pay for our law enforcement and for our fire and for our emergency management personnel in this county. And this board adopted that plan. It now becomes the policy of this board going forward to adhere to that plan. It is no different. So if all of you just choose not to run again, you would want that pay plan to be in place for the future generations of law enforcement and emergency management services in this county. Otherwise, why adopt it? A board before you has adopted a ULDC and a future land use plan, and that future land use plan calls for exactly what we're proposing here. Actually, what we're proposing is lower in density than what's being proposed, and I'm asking you to follow that plan. Follow the laws that you are setting for us. Follow the guidance documents that you have voted on as a board in prior years. No different than you want future boards to follow the pay schedule you just set. Now, if you don't follow the plan, then what we're saying is that the previous elected officials simply wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxpayer money on a new ULDC and on a comprehensive plan. And we're going to waste that guidance document. We're not going to follow it at all. If you don't like the future land use plan and you don't like the zoning ordinance, you have the power to amend it, to change the guidance document, and to change the laws of this county. That is your duty, that's your responsibility, that is your opportunity. No one here has, other than the six of you. So if you don't like it, you have the opportunity to amend it. But while it is the law and while it is the guidance documents of this county, it should be followed, and it should be followed reverently. Otherwise, it has no effect, and it is a wasteful process that we've gone through. We have filed our constitutional rights letter as of April 11th with this body. We will preserve those rights if we need to, but I urge you not to deprive them of their constitutional rights, not to deprive them of a reasonably designed, a prudent density in accordance with your laws and guidance documents. And your staff, your professional staff, has recommended approval. And we ask that you follow the staff's recommendation and you grant that R3 zoning that we have requested. Happy to take questions.
Anybody have any questions for the applicant? You have any? Okay. This constitutes a public hearing. I will open the floor up for 10 minutes. Anybody that's in favor of this, if you're in favor of it, please come to the podium, state your name. For the record, you have 10 minutes.
Steve Cash, Executive Director for the Henry Council for Quality Growth. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I just want for us to think about. In the past, I know we've gone against this school node district, this very district, when a quality subdivision was being planned. I know that other districts would love to have that quality subdivision that's within that school node district. I happened to work for months and months with the ULDC plan as a stakeholder. And we were able to define these nodes as being very helpful for the use for Henry County growth. And we know it's coming. We say over and over, we read over and over again that, 300,000, 400,000 people are going to be living here in the next several years. We've got, and that ULDC was designed for such purposes as this. So I plead with you to be very careful tonight. I got a report through open records request that showed the amount of money that's being spent on such lawsuits, public taxpayer money spent on lawsuits where board members, the board, they failed to try to get with that person or that group to offer some kind of arbitration, some kind of mediation to find a common ground. But no, we didn't have it that way. We chose to spend millions of dollars in the past defending the county. Let's don't spend any more. Let's try to work with this. Let's do what the Unified Land Development Code says. Let's provide for future room for all those people that are going to be moving here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anybody else like to be heard in favor of this requests? Hearing none, seeing none. I'll now open the floor for 10 minutes total. If anybody would like to speak in opposition, if you would, come to the podium and state your name, and the total group will have 10 minutes.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Bill Hightower. I reside at 1775 Crumley Road. The request before you should be denied. There are actually two reasons in just zoning alone. Currently, on Crumley Road corridor, there's only R1 zoning and RA zoning. To be straight up, there are a couple of old, very old R2 subdivisions, but they look more like R1s today. And so this sets a bad precedence for the Crumley Road corridor. There's another reason, and that's for the future, because we're going to be back at this again. The way this subdivision is designed, they're actually putting forth some commercial property on Crumley Road. It's not in this zoning request. But in 6 months, a year, 2 years, they're going to come back and say, hey, I've stranded some acres over here, and the only thing it's good for is commercial. Let me state, there is no commercial property on Crumley Road. There are commercial zonings and commercial properties facing Highway 155 and accessible from Highway 155, but there is no commercial property. And so if you approve this as an R3 tonight, you're tacitly giving approval to a commercial strip along Crumley Road right at the intersection. So there's two reasons, both precedent setting in terms of the zoning. Now, I'm very familiar with the land use plan. My brother worked on the land use plan when he was on the advisory board. And it is a land use plan. It is not a land use law. Take that into consideration. Much has been made about the school node, and that's why it should be done this way. If you know where that property is, you cannot access the Union Grove complex without walking out on 155 and walking along 155. This property is not ready for a school node because of, one, the road and the traffic. Now, there's an argument, yes, it actually abuts up to some of the elementary road, but you're then going to have to grant easement and access across the wetlands that are in that area where the sewer line runs. So take into consideration that there are two precedences being set by this. You are changing and putting an R3 for the first time on Crumley Road, and there is no other R3 on Crumley Road. You are also setting a precedence in the future that you're going to have to be dealing with a commercial property along Crumley Road because of the way the current subdivision is designed. So for both these reasons, I suggest you do deny this request.
Good evening. Thank you for hearing me. My name is Sandra Phillips. I reside at 179 Crumley Road, directly across the road from the houses that abut this property. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of myself and my husband, but also with several of my neighbors on and around Crumley Road. We've lost a couple of them due to the temperature, but they were here. We have many of the same issues that you often hear from neighbors when they come before you regarding rezoning applications. These issues are emotional, they concern aesthetics, they concern our tranquility, as well as concerns for our health, safety, and welfare. Although these issues are very real and very legitimate, they're well understood by all of us. So I won't elaborate further except to say that it's our strong belief that this property should never be rezoned without the performance of a high-level traffic study to realistically assess the current situation and the impact to be expected from any proposed development. Our health, safety, and welfare have already been very adversely affected by the changes in traffic patterns and driver attitudes since the 3 schools have opened. And we continue to be more and more endangered every day. I'm sure every person here with me tonight could tell you several more horror stories than you have the time to listen to about the dangers that we've been subjected to because of this. What I would prefer to focus on in my time remaining is 2 points from the staff report with which we strongly disagree. First, the report leans heavily on the future land use map's density criteria for the school activity node. The report uses these criteria to calculate a deficit of 1,264 dwelling units in this 933-acre node. There is an analysis from the school board also included in the staff report that gives an estimate of the impact this particular development would have on the existing schools. If we take this alleged deficit of 1,264 dwelling units and apply the same formula used by the school board to estimate the impact, here is what happens. 1,264 additional dwelling units in this node result in approximately 3,160 additional students, which require an additional 125 classrooms. However, 125 classrooms could not physically be added to the 3 existing schools. Actually, 3 additional whole schools would be required. This would result in another school node, I guess, with its own density criteria. So I think at that point you've shot yourself in the foot. Therefore, I believe that the future land use map's residential density criteria are not sustainable in this node. And therefore, I don't believe that these density criteria should be used to justify the density requested in this application. And the second point that I would wish to refer to briefly, which we strongly object to in the staff report, is on page 7. The report evaluates the impact of the proposed development upon the adjacent property owners as minimal, citing as its rationale the fact that we are already in a mix of low-density residential, commercial, and school uses. These other uses may be in our vicinity, but we are not surrounded by higher density residential, and we are not surrounded by commercial uses. And this is due in large part to our own efforts as a community in coming before the Zoning Advisory Board and before this board in the past and asking you all to consider our concerns. We respectfully ask you today to uphold the recommendations of the Zoning Advisory Board and deny this rezoning application. Thank you very much.
I'll be brief since we have 2 minutes. My name's Craig Weimer. I live at 200 Margie Court, which is just off Crumley Road. I have to concur with Ms. Phillips and Mr. Hightower and respectfully disagree with Mr. Welch. I have 4 or 5 reasons that in general traffic at the East Lake Crumley Road 155 intersection is terrible now. A high density housing will make it even worse. High density housing will adversely affect the safety, proximity to the school. I disagree with the fact, the plan about the node. There is only one way to access that school, as was referenced before, is to go back out on 155. Again, that traffic is horrible there. The character of the area is generally larger lots. We respectfully ask that you continue to uphold that. I believe firmly, and I think a lot of the residents believe, that the value that this area of the county has should be maintained, and that once you start with high-density housing, you actually have both ends of Crumley Road setting a precedent for the future, that you will start to see more and more dense lots, and that will have an adverse effect upon county resources, more schools, as was referenced, et cetera, public safety issues, et cetera. Finally, I like that myself, and a lot of residents believe that the value for the county and the growth for the county is maintaining this value as essentially what one would call a bedroom community for Atlanta. A lot of the folks live here but work elsewhere. The corridor from East Lake on to 75 is pretty heavily taxed now. It just went over taxed in terms of traffic. Just had several years ago an expansion. It would require another. So respectfully, I would submit that a move towards this kind of high-density housing is going to tax county resources even more, tax traffic, the school system in terms of trailers, et cetera, more schools being built. So just in summary, again, we respectfully request that you deny this application.
Somebody like to be heard for 33 seconds?
My name's Liddy Salguero, and I reside at 124 Knight Drive, and I have a daughter in the Union Grove High School who will have to go in one of the portables next year. And, you know, we've talked to the builder, and we don't understand why instead of doing an R3, maybe an R1. We obviously know he bought the land and he's going to be able to use it to do something with it, but why the R3 if that's not what he's really planning on doing? So I don't support the subdivision. Sorry.
Thank you. Time has expired. I call the applicant back for final comment or statement.
Members of the commission, I can't disagree with my friends and fellow citizens with their concerns about the future land use map. And if we were petitioning for a change or amendment, I think that we'd have a rousing support from the community. But as of tonight, the decision before you is one that is consistent with that plan. And we'd ask that you approve the rezoning to R3.
Anybody have any questions for the applicant? If not, I yield the floor to District 4.
Let me start by apologizing to my constituents for postponing this meeting last time. I couldn't speak. I have a sneaky suspicion you guys might want me to say something up here. So, with that being said, let me start here. First off, the 4 acres in front, I will never allow that to be commercial. So we can take that off the table now. That's not going to happen. There is commercial over across the street, but that fronts off of 155. 155 is a state corridor. That's fine. I don't have an issue with that, but there's no way. I saw a plan at one point where there was commercial on Crumbly. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Second thing, I am a little confused while we're here. I have said on this dais and in the newspaper, been quoted saying, I do not want to see R3 and R4 in Kellytown. Kellytown is historically estate lots, larger lots, and I have this strange mantra that the developer should meet the needs of the community, that the community shouldn't meet the needs of the developer. And, you know, we talk about property rights. What about the property rights of the citizens who built this community? The reason this developer wants to come here is because of my citizens, because of what they've done with this area. And to come in and say, well, we're going to change the whole feel of the area, it doesn't sit well with me. And, you know, I don't think I can just go along with R3 at all. And I'll tell you where I'm at. I'm really looking at R1 right now. But you filed a constitutional objection, is that correct? Just like you, I have done hundreds and hundreds of these. And my prediction of where this thing's going to go is I'm going to give you R1. You're going to take me to court. In 6 to 8 months, we're going to be sitting here again having this conversation. So here's where I'm at. And it pains me to do this. I want R1. You want R3. And this is it. I will meet you in the middle at R2. I will not give you R3. If this comes back to me, I will not give you R3. And that's all I'm going to do. I have some conditions to go along with the R2. First off, the R2 is going to be a minimum lot size of 30,000 square feet. You writing this down, somebody?
Mr. Commissioner, that's a standard condition in the code.
Okay.
30,000 for R2.
Making sure. All single-family detached houses located within the development shall have exteriors constructed of either all brick or a combination of brick, stone, masonry, or wood. For example, clapboard, shake, or shingles, or some combination of these materials. No vinyl except for soffits, shutters, and trim. Each house, number 3, each house shall have a minimum of 2,000 square feet of floor space. The developer shall sod the front and side yards of each lot. Each house shall have a minimum of a 2-car side entry garage, and all utilities shall be underground.
May I ask for a copy of that? For the record, so we can keep downstairs.
I'll get you something.
Thank you.
And Chairman, I'm ready to make that into a motion.
Okay, you have a motion to do,
I motion to approve R2 zoning with the conditions as I read.
can we see those conditions? Would you read them again?
Number 1, the lot size minimum 30,000 square feet. Number 2, all single-family detached houses located within development shall have exteriors constructed of either all brick or a combination of brick, stone, masonry, siding, or wood, for example, clapboard, shake, or shingles, or some combination of these materials. No vinyl except for soffits, shutters, and trim. Each house shall have a minimum of 2,000 square feet of floor space. The developer shall sod the front and side yards of each lot. Each house shall have a minimum of a 2-car side entry garage, and all utilities shall be underground.
Those are the same conditions that are on the R3 right next door to this property.
Counselor, that R3 is the old R2. It's not active R3.
That's in the form of a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Who seconds it? Second it for discussion. Are you amenable to that, counsel? It's kind of catching us off guard because I wasn't familiar that was going to compromise. I really didn't. So now I don't know how the citizens out there feel about even R2.
I'd have to talk to my client.
Say again?
I'd have to talk to my client, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we're in a dilemma. We have a motion, we have a second, and we have a discussion, and I would like to have a feel of how the people in that neighborhood feel about R2. So I'm saying that y'all would go with R2. Is that what we're saying?
Can you tell me the difference between R2 and R3?
Well, I didn't mean to start a dialogue with the audience.
What R2 is, I'm sorry, I can explain on you guys.
I can explain it real quick.
Please.
The difference between R1, R2, and R3. R3, minimum lot size is 18,000 square feet. R2, minimum lot size is 30,000 square feet. R1, minimum lot size is 1 acre. You're welcome.
Public, 1 acre is 43,000 square feet, somewhere in there.
43,560.
Just
That's
to
correct.
give everybody perspective.
To understand, these are a little bit smaller than an acre.
Is that something you could talk to your client about quickly, or is that something we need to? R2?
Well, Chairman, I'm not asking I'm not asking them what they
Say
want.
again.
The applicant, the developer.
Yeah, but the fact is, if we're going to impose something, if he's agreeable to it, we've got a deal. If he's not, then we've done nothing really.
Mr. Chairman, the board can zone the property in whatever manner it chooses, regardless of
understand
whether
that.
the applicant consents to it. So even if he says
But
we don't
normally,
agree,
before we
the
put
board-
conditions on somebody, we ask the applicant if they're amenable to
I
it.
think typically that's what you do, but you are free to impose those
I understand
conditions
that.
even if they say they're not.
I understand that.
Mr. Chairman, I've talked to the engineer. That's going to be a reduction of almost half of the lots that were proposed in the R3 subdivision. So it's a cut of almost 50% of the lots, and the conditions are no doubt stout. But
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Thank you.
thank you.
Next, we have Article 3-17-69, adoption of ordinance pertaining to film, television, and video permit guidelines. County Manager. Greetings.
Commissioners, over the last couple of weeks, literally not months at all, we've been inundated with requests for usages of county property for the film industry support. We've had parking lots, we've had buildings, we've had streets, sidewalks, sidewalk shootingscapes, views out of windows. And the problem is we didn't have any consistency of the review. You'll recall last month there was an unfortunate event where one of our facilities was used in a way that was not reflective well on Henry County. So we dusted off something from a few years ago, put it together, updated to what we have learned with our experience of the last couple of weeks, and it's going to have to be a work in progress. It is the resolution you have before you this evening. It does provide for us to be able to look at each one individually. It provides a central location, which we didn't have before. We're going to use the communications office. There will be the coordinating leg. Before, we had individual parts of the county potentially entering into permissive uses for our film industry. That has caused some other problems. So now we've centralized it where it would be in the communications department. And for the most part here, until we get some other bases down, it's going to be me reviewing them along with the department whose property that would oversee what the county's there. For example, if it's one of the buildings, it would be Mr. Purvis, the facilities maintenance. If it is at the airport, it was Mr. Tony, which that has occurred. This does give us the ability to look at it, make sure it's going to fit the standards. It also makes sure that our property is looked after. It lets me charge for fees for when we have to provide unusual services or time it takes to get it permitted. It provides for the indemnification. It provides for all the things that we have lacked just by signing these applications on a here-by-here basis. But unfortunately, it's going to be a work in progress. It's going to take 7 days for someone to work through this. There's an appeal process with it. I think we'll turn them around a lot quicker than that just to accommodate the industry. But unknown to us, when we got hit this hard with it, we didn't have any policies to stand on, so we dusted off this one and have it before you this evening. If you have any questions, I'm here.
I read in the resolution that you were going to have a committee that made the final decision on who could utilize the property versus who couldn't. And so I was wondering, are there going to be a standard set of questions? And then also, if you have, even if you don't have a standard set of questions, what would prompt approval versus denial of someone being able to film in Henry County?
The questions are in the application that will generally give us a feel to it. It does not exclude from me, as the county manager, being able to say, I want to know about this, this, and this. I can expand on that. That privilege is in there. The discretionary part right now will rest with the county manager or their designee. What would trigger it? If I had an opportunity to look at something and I thought it would put the county at risk, if I didn't get the liability insurance cover, if I found something in there that I believe would be shocking to the conscience to the residents of Henry County, I'm certainly going to have that discretion part of it, but we do need to watch that policy carefully. It's got to be a work in progress, Commissioner Holmes. You saw what's happened in the past. Right now, with what we've got, I needed to get something in place to make sure that we at least had the minimums covered for allowing people to use our property or the public assets.
But I also heard earlier today a number of people come up and talk about freedom of speech, the First Amendment. So it seems like if you have this come before a board, any decision is going to be a subjective decision to approve or deny. So I'm trying to figure out, how do you keep this policy from being discriminatory towards a particular person or industry or singing group?
First Amendment rights.
Correct.
Yes, sir. The plan for itself it's going to have to speak to a lot of subjectivity, and right now that judgmental rests with the county manager. We'd like to have the policy so that we could have it a little more airtight, but we needed something sooner. That's why I qualified it early on. This is a work in progress, and it's actually a very good document that the board considered several years ago. If there was a discretionary issue that came up and I was uncomfortable with, I have the authority to say, no, I'm going to take this to the board, or I need to have some conditions in it without it. I'll certainly consult with counsel to make sure I don't breach any of those First Amendment rights, and what we do is legal and conforming. And certainly keeping in mind the community standards that were there. I can ask other questions. I can compel answers to questions. And if I need any ultimate guidance, I have the Board of County Commissioners to turn to.
Yeah. All right.
As counsel, have you looked at this?
I looked at it. I think it meets the requirements or the limitation. It satisfies the requirements of the First Amendment as far as content goes. Our content review is only limited to the types of things that a government can prohibit, which is essentially obscenity. I mean, it almost rises, it has to rise to the level of something that is shocking to the conscience. We can't regulate the content. We can't say we like these types of films but not these types of films. In order for us to regulate based on content, it's got to be something that's just absolutely horrific and offensive to the community. And quite frankly, the music video that came out, that's probably not something we could prohibit. That's probably not sufficiently shocking enough to prohibit. It's
be the purpose of this resolution.
That may be two sentences in this resolution. The rest of this resolution deals with the logistics. Parking, road closures, public safety. That's really what this resolution's about. The language about the obscenity, the regulating the shocking the conscience type activity, that's really a minor, very minor aspect of this. What this does is ensures that if there's going to be filming in the community where they're simulating police chases, we've got a whole section on what do you do if you're simulating a police chase. We've got a section that deals with what do you do if you're simulating gunfire, because there's public safety issues involved. We have regulations that talk about putting up those big catering tents to make sure the building department is going to look at those tents, make sure they're built right. It is the overwhelming majority of this ordinance deals with logistical on-the-ground issues to prevent filming from being an interference. It isn't really intended to watch out for what they're filming. It's how they do it, where they do it, and when they do it, so we have some control over the disruptive effects. I live and work essentially in downtown McDonough. They've been filming a movie there, and it's been disruptive, but it's been planned and it's been coordinated. And when traffic was closed, on the square, there's been things in place to ensure that those closures don't get in the way. There's been security requirements, there's been public safety requirements, and that's really what this gets at. The content thing is such a small, I don't want you to get caught up in the content thing. In order to stop or to deny a permit based on content, it's got to be something horrible. It's got to be, it's almost got to be pornography. That's really what it boils down to. It's short of that, we're going to have a hard time justifying blocking filming based on content.
Commissioner Holmes, what we really needed is a basis to direct them to a single point and get permitted so we could evaluate it. We've had property used. I was out at one of the ones that are in Griffin, and I was out at the airport and they were cutting some small pine trees down. So wait a minute, here's something we didn't contemplate on it. So we're really looking for a central way to at least review the uses of it to make sure that the county was indemnified and we have the ability to charge for it if they required additional services. It is an accommodation to the film industry, and being the third largest film industry supported state in the nation, it's just an unusual thing that all of a sudden is tripped up, and we needed some guidance. This does that for us.
I'm okay with the objective piece, the traffic concerns and the permitting and all that stuff, but having just one person making this decision on who can film in Henry County versus who can't, to me that's discriminatory, and I can't support anything like that.
Well, it was a starting point. Whether we need to name a committee, the board wants to entrust that with the committee, I'm fine with. It was just to get us started. We needed something quickly, and I inserted that in there so we had some uniformity. The board would like me to put a board together on it. That'll be something I'll work on right now. And we can get it back to you, but in the meantime, I've got everything in place that I can at least say someone at the county's eyes has looked at it, and we have looked at it in accordance with this ordinance.
Anybody else have any comments? Questions? Not, we have a, this just takes one single reading, right?
That's correct.
And it doesn't require a public hearing?
Does not.
Okay. We have a ordinance regarding film, television, and permit guideline. And 73-17-69, adoption of ordinance pertaining to the film, television, and video grant guidelines. Is somebody moving that direction? Have a motion, District 1? We're gonna table it?
I'll second it.
You'll second it? Second, District 4, any further discussion? If we don't think we're gonna approve it, we need to come up with a plan B, so. Oh, to table it?
Table it, what's going on?
That's a discussion. You motioned it, you seconded it, so now we're discussion. So, do we think we need some more work on it?
Mr. Chairman, I might suggest if the board wants, we can certainly remove from the ordinance any reference to content and make it a purely objective, essentially a check-the-box application. If they satisfy the objective requirements,
So which
then they
one,
would be entitled to film.
which one are we taking out?
Well, it's sprinkled throughout. I mean, it'll take a little bit of work. I don't think we can do it tonight. I think it'll take a little work.
How can we take the sprinkle out of it?
We'll have to work on it and bring it back to you at the next meeting.
Okay, so,
But and you don't need to vote on it. If the general consensus is
well,
the board wants an objective criteria to address the sort of the public safety type impacts, we can sort of sanitize this document and bring it back to you. It'll make no reference to
okay,
the
in order to
content.
move in that direction with a consensus, we have to get a withdrawal of a second, then with withdrawal of a motion. Okay, so we got a consensus that we're going to change the language in it.
And we'll bring it
Everybody
back
agree
at
with
the
that?
next available meeting, whether it's the next one or the one after that.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to table.
No, we just,
Table it?
huh?
Just table it?
Second.
No, we just, okay, we got a motion to table it, we got a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign.
Commissioners can give you some guidance about what you want to do with permitting or just not permit, or.
I think we're gonna just take this, we're gonna take the sprinkles out, right?
We'll address it, and it'll be permitted based on just the objective
Yeah.
criteria.
Well, the ones that come in between now and then, how do you want me to respond to them? We have been taking them on a case-by-case basis.
I think we need to do case by case.
Do you want me to make this case-by-case subjective call on these ones? That's what we have done thus far.
I would say yes. Otherwise, I don't have a problem with that.
Then because I'll be entering into arrangements with people who are paying the county, who had leases, I need the board to put a vote on it to allow me to do
I think we
that.
got some limited policy that we can do that. Is that correct? I mean, we're not reinventing the wheel here.
There is a provision, I think, in the code that allows I actually think it may have fallen to the chairman.
I think you're right.
I'll have to look back at it and see. But in a realistic standpoint, we're not contracting to do anything for people that are coming in. They're agreeing to do stuff for us. It's really not a contract we're entering into. We're just saying, okay, go ahead, use the facilities.
We will continue the way we've been doing, in concert, the county manager and the chairman and any other members who want to get involved in it, till we can bring this back.
I think that's fine.
So the signatory part
Yes.
between you and I?
Yes, sir.
Is that all right with the board?
Mostly you. Okay, resolution to amend the fiscal year 2015-2016 budget. We done tried to hash this out one time, hadn't we? About the golf course?
Yes, sir.
Why is it coming back up? I'm just asking.
I'm sorry, I cannot answer that question.
Commissioners, I brought this up several weeks ago. In the direction that the county commissioners have given me, you wanted an opportunity to be able to exercise all your options, and that included settling up, paying up with the current contractor. We are in arrears with that, and that would be one of the things that this would have been established for. The other part of it is if I want to spend any money there on those, if I was going to close it up, I didn't even have the funds to be able to do that. I didn't have an account to charge it to. So all the options contingent on us being able to work there the way it is should include account, so we can account for the transactions, move money in it, move out. And you understand that there are a number of options we're looking at right now. But the first thing that had to occur is we need to establish the account that should have been established months ago.
Well, the reason I bring this up, at the last time we brought this up, it was 3-3. So unless somebody's changed their mind, that they need to, we had 3 in favor of it and 3 that was opposed it. Is that correct? So I'm saying, has somebody changed their mind?
Line item to pay our bills, correct?
Yes, sir, we do.
My 10 cents, I didn't approve this contract at the golf course, so I can't support to fund it. Flat and simple.
Somebody move in that direction, have a resolution?
I think we need to go ahead and settle at least. It's crazy not to have an account for
Have a
just
motion?
good accounting practices.
Have a second, District 5. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. So moved.
Thank you, Board.
Mr. County Attorney, you have anything independently?
Nothing separately, Your Honor, other than we don't need to do executive session tonight, so y'all can mark that off your list. And
Okay.
we can get out of here.
Approval of the minutes for March the 29th, 2016 minutes. That's reference to GDOT meeting. April the 5th, 2016, the budget meeting. April the 19th, 2016, BOC meeting. Does somebody move we approve these minutes as published?
So moved.
Have a motion, District 3.
Second.
Second, District 1. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. County Manager, do you have any additional comments?
Yes. Commissioners, tomorrow I'll be traveling to downtown Atlanta. I'll be meeting with some folks regarding the airport. I should be back late afternoon. Hope to have you some good news on that in the next couple of days afterwards. We've got a couple of construction projects going on and some accounting for relocations of some offices. What we laughingly call the bank building now. I've met with Judge Harper, Judge Studdard, and Mr. Carl Brown. They will be relocating from their current address to what will now be referred to as the Sentencing Enforcement Building, i.e. the old bank building. It gives us about 6 weeks before that we'll be in there. Mr. Purvis will be finishing up some projects here, and then we'll be throwing all the resources over there to get that building accommodated for the new where we replaced one contractor and we've moved the probation services to this building. We still will retain the building for use of record retention from the county clerk's office. It'll be cleaned up. At least it'll look a lot better, and the maintenance on it will be much improved. The other building is Aubrey Harvey building. We're moving Hutch's facilities out of the building they have right now on the campus of DOT. We're going to move him over to that building and that back corner where Judge Amero's offices were. Try to consolidate his crew and then use that current facilities for a break room and those things that are kind of support the groups. That's the two moves we've got going, and that takes care of my emergencies that have popped up. And it buys us a little bit more time on the Phillips Drive building. We're vetting a couple of the contracts. I've got a meeting on that, I think that later this week. Then we'll come back at the next meeting. I think we'll talk to you about what we're going to do with Phillips Drives and give you some consideration for that. With that, that's all I have, unless you have any questions for the county manager.
Anybody have any questions for the county manager? The chairman has no comments. Any commissioner like to make a comment at this time for any reason? Upcoming meetings, June the 7th, 9 o'clock a.m. is a regular meeting. June the 21st at 6:30 p.m. is a regular meeting. July the 5th at 9 a.m. has been canceled. If somebody would move to amend the agenda to remove Article 24, 25, and 26 of the agenda. Somebody move, we do that? This is not a trick. This is not a trick, guys. 24 is executive session. 25 is reconvene. 26, approval and affidavit. So I'm suggesting that we amend the agenda to remove 24, 25, and 26. So moved. Have a motion, District 5. Here, second. Second from District 1. Any further discussion? All in favor say, raise your right hand. Somebody move, we adjourn. Have a motion, District 5. Second, District 4. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Same sign. Dang, I ain't too fast for y'all.